In 2018, the detective teamed up with the same genealogy expert who caught the Golden State Killer. And then the DNA finally pointed to one man, Nicky Dwayne Stain, a married father from Visalia, who had allegedly been attacking women at gunpoint for years.
Wow.
He told the police he had also approached women and did things he shouldn't have done. And when it came to Debbie, he said up and down, and I quote, it was consensual. Even though prosecutors said there was zero evidence that they had ever met. Well, the case gets more crazy. Hi, my witches. Welcome to the Witch Talk Tales podcast. We're your host. I'm Megan.
And I'm Miguel.
And if you're new here, we're from Fresno. We talk about haunted places, true crimes, urban legend, and the history of Fresno. So why not subscribe and join and listen to our podcast? And on tonight's podcast, though, we're going to be talking about 3 Fresno true crime story. Larissa Schuster, who murdered her husband and placed his body in a 55 chemical barrel.
Sounds like a movie.
Oh yeah, it does. Well, wait until you guys hear it. And then our second Fresno true crime story, we're going to be talking about Joe Camara. Somebody murdered him on Valentine's Day.
That's sad.
Not on Valentine's Day, bruh.
I know.
And then our third story, we're going to be talking about Debbie Dorian, who was found by her father. She was murdered 2 days prior in her apartment.
I wonder who that was.
Well, before we get into the podcast, viewers' discretion and audio discretion is advised. Everything we talk about is all alleged, and also strong adult languages and images that might disrupt the viewer and listeners. But with that being said, let's get straight into the podcast. So how you been?
Been okay.
Well, this true crime story of Fresno, we're in a rude awakening. Or how do you say it? You're in for a rude awakening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Our first Fresno true crime story, we're going to be talking about Larissa Schuster. She grew up on a quiet farm in Clarence, Missouri. She studied biochemistry at the University of Missouri, working nights as a nurse at home, where she met Timothy Schuster, her husband. He was also a farm kid studying nursing, and in 1982, they were married, and then they had 2 kids, Kristen and Taylor. Sorry, Tyler. My bad. Tyler. In 1989, the family moved to Fresno, California. Larissa quickly built a name for herself in the agriculture science world, eventually launching her own lab, Central California Research Laboratories. She was working very hard, and then she became like the breadwinner of the family, and so Timothy Schuster became an at-home dad. By 2002, their marriage had cracked beyond repair. Their divorce was bitter. Larissa refused to accept the custody terms, act like the house and business were hers alone, and didn't want Timothy involved with their son at all. After Timothy moved out, she was soon breaking into his home and taking items that she believed that was hers. Friends even recalled her wishing he was dead, and I quote, talking about someone to rough him up. Then Timothy disappeared. Larissa had her employee Leslie Fisher rent a storage unit in August of 2002. Months later, in April 2003, a blue 55-gallon chemical barrel was delivered to the lab. Larissa told employees it was for yard clippings, but then casually asked if anybody could fit inside.
That's suspicious right there.
She ordered large amounts of hydrochloric sulfuric acid and even a bottle of chloroform. On July 9th, 2003, Timothy vanished. No struggle, no signs of forced entry. Just his truck parked in the garage and his phone left behind.
Damn.
See, to me, that's suspicious because
That's
why would your phone be left behind? Everybody takes their phone everywhere.
Because just her asking if like person could fit inside the barrel.
That's already suspicious, number 1. Back to the story. When detectives spoke with Larissa, she claimed she hadn't seen him for days, but she looked violently when they asked about her phone. Oddly, none of her speed dial's number belonged to Timothy. Then came in the break of the case.
What was the break?
On July 14th, Fischera and a friend of Larissa went to the police, reported suspicious behavior. Search warrants followed. Her home, her lab, her storage unit. Inside that unit, officers found the blue barrel. Inside the barrel were human remains, following in hydrochloric acid. DNA confirmed it was Timothy. The acid itself was determined to be the cause of death. Also, I do have to note this, he was alive when she did that to him.
So I wonder how he was able to get in the first place.
Well, from what I read was that in the case, from what I read, it was said that she had someone help her kidnap the husband, and then they put chloroform on him to knock
Okay.
him out. And then they put his body inside the 55-gallon chemical barrel. Back to the story, the trial was brutal. Prosecutors argued she killed Timothy for financial gains and to avoid splitting her asset. Evidence showed the barrel had first been stored on her property. A circular mark was still fresh on the floor on the shed. On May 16, 2008, Larissa Schuster was sentenced to life in prison without parole. What did you think about that?
That's crazy story. Okay, so this is weird how people murder somebody, and the ideas that they get, how to do it, and for her to use the chemical, was it chloroform?
Yeah,
Hydrochloric
hydrochloric
acid.
acid, and then the chloroform. It was said that she used it to basically put over his mouth, and that's when it knocked him out. Because I guess from I don't know where she got the idea, but obviously you've seen in TV shows where people are using chloroforms to knock their victims out, and kidnap and so on and so forth. So the story that I read was that there was somebody else involved. She asked him to come help her to put chloroform over his mouth, and they kidnapped him, put his body in the barrel, and that's where she put the hydrochloric acid inside the barrel, and then he died. And from what my understanding was, he was still alive when it happened. So he felt every detail, every inch of everything that was happening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how chloroform works, where it knocks you out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure in one way he's feeling out that.
Well, I'm pretty sure, look, whoever did kidnap him and put the chloroform and covered his mouth and knocked him out, he had to come out of it some way, somehow. We've seen movies where people get knocked out by chloroform and then they wake up. But imagine he got knocked out with chloroform and he woke up and he was inside the barrel.
barrel.
Mind you, it's a 55 chemical barrel. I wonder how tall he was. She had to basically push him in there and stuffed him in there. I don't mean to sound insensitive here.
Well, it's a 55-gallon barrel, so it might not be tall, but it might be like wide. So probably just, or unless, because I know you've seen like the movies, sometimes, once the acid hits, you just melting stuff. So maybe that's what happened to him. Once they put him inside, it was just melting.
Well, in the case that we just read, it said that part of his body was floating. So I'm pretty sure it came off because of the acid. It's a sad case. It's a very sad case. And so she was finally convicted, life without parole. Now, drop down a comment and let us know, what do you guys think about that case? Why did she really murder him? Was it because due to financial gains? And also, I believe she did this because she was jealous that her husband was not working and it was only her. She had to step up and be the man in the family, I guess, because remember, he was a stay-at-home dad.
Maybe for the pride.
Yeah. Oh, pride. Maybe she did it because of pride. Again, this is all alleged. But with that being
Allegedly.
said, yeah, let us know. Drop down a comment, let us know. If you're from Fresno, listen to this.
So moving on to our next story, this Fresno true crime story is of Joe Camara, who actually got murdered on Valentine's Day back in 1996. So Joe Camara, he was a dairyman. He worked at Salsa Dairy, so he's always up in the morning feeding the cattle, and during that time, it was a very foggy day. He does what he does every morning, which is feed the cattle before sunrise. Joe was a simple man, a hardworking dairyman, a husband, a father of a 3-year-old boy. But that morning, somebody else was waiting in the area. And there was a former detective, his name is Chris Cordes, who said this saying, when the sun comes down, cooks go out. So Joe was near a loader when someone was right there to position themselves. And he was behind an opening dairy wall, standing on pallets, and he aimed and fired. Okay, he just shot one time, and Joe was murdered. So the crazy part is that Joe wasn't any kind of like gang member or suspicious, like he owed anything to anybody, because he was just pretty much a simple man. And supposedly he didn't have any debts, he didn't have any enemies, so the detective wasn't sure why he was targeted. What detectives found out was back in the 90s, farms and dairies in the Fresno County were getting hit hard, and probably a robbery went wrong, and that's when they murdered Joe, who was actually trying to work that day.
So basically, he was caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, because there was no motive of why would he be murdered, and even until now, they still don't know who actually murdered Joe Camara. So right now, after already 30 years, they're still looking for whoever did it, and they're actually giving out a $50,000 reward
So this
for any
case,
information.
so this case is still unsolved.
It's very unsolved still.
Now, isn't the Shalsa dairy place located on Valentine Street?
Yeah, that's the crazy part too.
And the fact that he was murdered on Valentine's Day and they still don't know who did it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to say that it's coincidence, obviously, but the fact that it happened on Valentine's Day and on Valentine Street, what if there was a connection?
Do you think so?
Maybe it's just me thinking too far, you know?
Mm.
Rest in peace, Joe Camara. When we hear these true crimes happening, not just even in our town, but other places, you're shocked. You think like, wow, it can't happen here. But then we're here right now talking about it in Fresno.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you think people are capable of doing things beyond what we can imagine. It's crazy, it's scary, it's sad. But when it happens in your own town, you're just like,
shocked.
Yeah, shocked.
And you know, that's a lot of stories that I never really heard of, and it's just you hear it and it's like, what?
In Fresno?
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to our next story, we're going to be talking about Debbie Dorian. Her real name is Deborah Sarah Dorian, but they call her Debbie for short. Well, in 1986, Fresno State grad Debbie Dorian was just 22 years old when her father found her murdered in her own apartment. She'd passed away 2 days prior. She had been bound, gagged with duct tape, and asphyxiated. And investigators found only one clue, an unknown DNA.
Wow.
They put that DNA into the national database called CODIS, or CODIS. Mm-hmm. Well, nothing showed up, and years went by, and they didn't catch nobody. But then in 2006, there was a hit. The same DNA showed up in a Visalia sexual assault case, but still no name and no suspect. And then there was the breakthrough. In 2018, detectives teamed up with the same genealogy expert who also caught the Golden State Killer. Mm-hmm. And then the DNA finally pointed to one man, Nicky Dwayne Stain, a married father from Visalia, who had allegedly been attacking women at gunpoint for years.
Wow.
He told the police he had also approached women and did things he shouldn't have done. And when it came to Debbie, he said up and down, and I quote, it was consensual, even though prosecutors said there was zero evidence that they had ever met. He eventually pleaded guilty to Debbie's murder, and in 2023, he was sentenced to life without parole, nearly 3 decades later. Her mother said one thing, and I quote, she was precious, sweet, loving, and smart. That's how she should be remembered, and I quote. Also, I was watching ABC 2020 where they were talking about the case of Debbie Dorian. Mm-hmm. He was working at Visalia Mall. And then they showed up to him and they were like, do you know this girl? And he was like, no, I don't know who that is. But he said it quick. And they're like, did you kill her? And he was like, no. Well, they already knew. They already had evidence and everything that pointed to him. Mm-hmm. They waited for him outside. And when he finally came out, they arrested him and said, you've been arrested for the murder of Deborah Sarah Dorian, right? Well, the case gets more crazy. He sat down in the interrogation room and they asked him about all the cases that happened with the sexual assault, even in Visalia, California, and also the case of Debbie Dorian. He claimed that all those girls that he did, he walked up to them and did this to them with a cuate, and was like forcing them to do things against their will. But when it came to Debbie, he said it was consensual. Now, I'm bringing this up is because the prosecutors said they had no evidence that these two knew each other. Mm-hmm. Nicky Dwayne Stain and Debbie Dorian did not know each other. But at her apartment, there was a notepad that had his name on it and it was crossed out. It said Nick crossed and then it said Ricky. But what is crazy is that she was looking for a roommate. So I think he showed up to her apartment and tried to be her roommate, and he thought she was beautiful. And he was like, I want to do this here, blah, blah, blah. She crossed his name out. I think she either rejected him and he was upset, and that's when he came back and did that to her. Allegedly.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, makes sense, I guess.
It makes sense. But again, you guys, watch it. It's so good. It's literally on Hulu and other streaming platforms. We're not promoting or sponsoring. Before we end the podcast, what did you think about these 3 Fresno true crime stories of Larissa Schuster, Debbie Dorian, and also Joe Camara?
Yeah, I just can't believe, it's been like almost like 2 to 3 decades, and these stories are popping up right now, I guess. And, I never really heard of these stories. So I don't know, I just think it's crazy.
No, me too. And then for me, I've never heard about these cases. And the reason why I brought these cases up is because everyone's been leaving so much comments about haunted places, true crimes, and stuff about Fresno. And you know me, I go through each and every, you guys, I read the comments, even the bad ones. And so when I see those, I'm bringing it up. And that's when I'm like, what the heck is going on? Okay, here's the thing. I was going to do the Debbie Dorian case, and then boom, on Facebook, it popped up and it said, we're going to be opening the case and we're going to be talking about it. And I'm like, oh my God, I was just going to talk about it for the next week's podcast. That is crazy. You guys, I'm always coming up with new ideas and new topics for the podcast to keep you guys interested. Well, when I hear about these Fresno true crime stories, it makes me really try to be careful out there because people are capable of doing anything. Anything. It makes you still wonder, though, what cases we haven't talked about yet.
It's pretty sure it's still a lot.
And that's why we're here, Well, before we end the podcast, thank you guys for listening and thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you on Monday for audio and Sunday for visual. But with that being said, blessed be everyone. Stay safe out there, please. Bye.
Bye.
If you're from Fresno.